أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف المرسلين سيدنا ونبينا ومولانا محمد وعلى آله وأصحابه وبارك وسلم رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقهوا قولي السلام عليكم ورحمة الله تعالى وبركاته. I ain't tripping, whichever way you want to say it. That is what you're tuning in this evening. And we are indeed, it's Thursday evening in the Western Cape here in South Africa. Icy cold, wet, windy conditions, but we say Alhamdulillah for the bounties of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And wherever you find yourself watching this evening, I'm sure you're going to be enthralled by our topic of conversation, number one, and as well as our guest. I've had a few minutes to engage with our guest prior to going live this evening, and I'm waiting to get into this conversation. People say just need to wipe it a little bit here to try and just get some excitement going. But guess who's back? Guess who's back with me? He's not sitting next to me right now, but he's here on the platform. Sheikh, assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. How are you doing, Chicha?
I'm well, alhamdulillah. Yeah, it's like I've missed you.
It feels great to be back, alhamdulillah.
Yeah, can I give you a virtual hug? Can I give you a virtual hug? There we go.
Bismillah. Go for it.
There we go. The elbow thing that we normally do.
Okay, let's.
There we go. How are you doing, man?
Alhamdulillah. The sabbatical was good. Alhamdulillah. And we're back, inshallah, to do what you do best. I just follow. Follow your lead.
That's scary, smart. But mashallah, it's really good to have you back. And we've had some, last week we looked at, last 2 weeks we had the poem that made Sheikh Imam Ahmad ibn Hanbal cry. It resonated with me. We had a great guest on Mullah Ibrahim Painting. And now we have this evening somebody. I think I'm going to allow you to do the introduction because, I'm sitting here, I've got a pen and paper ready. I'm going to make notes. So I actually want to tell those watching this evening, I am certain that whatever advices you get this evening, you can make a note of it. Because the topic of conversations will be so great, inshallah. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala facilitate for us to have a very great program this evening to inspire others that's watching to benefit mankind at large, inshallah. But Sheikh, I'm going to hand over to you. I see the red dot on you. Is somebody trying to kill you or something on your side? See, you got the red dot on your wall. They're missing you, but that's okay.
Okay, alhamdulillah, salatu wassalamu ala rasulillah. We are fortunate this evening to have on our platform a person who I had the good fortune of working with for almost a decade. Alhamdulillah. He's younger than most of the people he led in that work, which was amazing. An author of note, public speaker, a self-help guru, if we may, right? So that's why he's here, alhamdulillah. So Sheikh Ismail Kamda has headed as faculty manager the teachers at the Islamic Online University for almost a decade, and alhamdulillah, recently he's moved on, and it's always good when people move on to different spheres within the same genre, but alhamdulillah, moved on to a different institution, a new institution, and fortunately, alhamdulillah, is currently with the Yaqeen Institute, headed by Dr. Omar Sulaiman, who's become quite a household name in South Africa currently. But that's his accolades, right? But I just want to jump in there with a few questions for Sheikh on a personal note, just to set the tone. So inshallah, Sheikh, I'm going to ask you a few all questions so that those watching get to know you, inshallah. So Sheikh Ismail Kamda is here.
Walaikum salam wa rahmatullah.
So Sheikh Ismail Kamda, is he a tea drinker or a coffee drinker?
Oh, definitely coffee.
Alhamdulillah. Okay. So, when you drink coffee, is it at home or do you have to buy it from a coffee shop?
No, it's at home. But I mean, once or twice a week, treat myself out, coffee at a coffee shop. But I mean, generally it's at home. I have my French press and my beans and a good cup of coffee every morning. Yeah.
Okay, sure. So being South African and being based in Durban, is it Nando's or Ocean Basket?
Neither.
Okay, where would you eat? Where would you eat?
Yeah, I mean, Durban got a lot of other places. I mean,
Yeah, no,
you think you
yeah,
have
yeah.
Cape Town options, right?
Yeah, no, we like really limited, really limited.
I mean, all
طيب.
my friends come from Cape Town to Durban to eat out. So like, yeah, we've got
Yeah.
we got Sofra Istanbul, my favorite Turkish place. We got Smoking
We
Joe's for
have
the
one too.
burgers.
We have one too also now.
Yeah,
So
so
yeah,
you guys need to come down here and try these places out.
definitely,
Really.
definitely, inshallah. Okay.
Best shawarmas in Durban. Best shawarmas in Durban.
Yeah.
Okay. Third question, Sheikh, which I know the answer to, but just for the viewers, Apple or Android?
Android. I've never had an Apple device in my life.
Okay, طيب. Xbox or PlayStation?
So it was PlayStation until now. I had a PlayStation 1, PlayStation 2, PlayStation 3, and PlayStation 4. But 3 weeks ago, I bought the Xbox Series X. I feel like a bit of a traitor, but the Game Pass was too good a deal.
Alhamdulillah. Yeah, you always keep your options open. Options open. Sheikh, so, okay. And the last question before we get into the actual discussion, inshallah. So Sheikh Ismail Kamda gets a ticket on the blue train to travel from Durban to Cape Town via Pretoria. You have to go to Pretoria. And in your cabin, there are 3 spaces, but you can only fill it with 3 Islamic icons from the past century. So we're speaking about the 1900s. Across border. So which 3 will you choose?
I'll choose Ibn Ashur, rahimahullah, from Tunisia. Sheikh Abu Hassan Nadwi from India.
Okay.
And just to spice up the conversation, Sheikh Rashid Rida from Egypt.
Allah.
I think those 3 in a room together would be an amazing conversation.
A 31 hour. It's about 31 hours, Chicha, the blue train ride. It's about 31 hours.
Yeah.
That would be an amazing trip, alhamdulillah. So now we have acquainted ourselves with Sheikh Ismail, and so Chicha, we can go into the discussion, and I think you have lots of questions, and Sheikh is definitely the person to help us with this. Like we said, all his work before March 2020 was already online. Of the people that's work life hasn't been impacted much through the lockdown is definitely Sheikh Ismail Kamda. But we give over to you.
No, mashallah. I'm surprised. Firstly, I'm surprised that you're a coffee drinker and you come from Durban. When I got to Durban, they told me to drink tea. So I'm very surprised about that. But nevertheless, I see you're a connoisseur of coffees, like Sheikh Yusuf is a connoisseur of oud, mashallah. But looking at the world today, I mean, there's no way you could have seen what would happen in terms of everybody going online, trying to facilitate, educate themselves. Besides that, also trying to work online. When you did this, how strange was it? Was it like a strange phenomenon for you to be working and doing things online?
Yeah, so it was in 2010 I got my first online job, and everybody was like, what's that? What's going to happen? The elders in my family are like, you're going to be bored in a few months and want to get out of the house. Young guys are like, wife going to start fighting every day. There's no way you're going to be in the house together all day. But it became something that I got so accustomed to that I can't imagine living any other way. It's like, this is who I am. I love working from home. I love having my own timetable, my own pace, my own to-do list. There's a lot of freedom, to just be yourself, without having to have that mask that you wear when you're in the office. It's really nice, like when I first started, some of my neighbors couldn't understand how I paid the rent. They would look at my wife and say, "Your husband's at home playing video games all day," because that's what they think the computer is. The old people, they think it's video games. Like how he makes money. And I think right till now, a lot of older people don't understand how I make money. When I try to explain to them, they don't understand the internet, they don't understand computers, they don't understand e-commerce. So I have to like really dumb it down for them. But alhamdulillah, things have changed a lot from 2010 to 2021. I'm not talking about the bad change in the past 2 years. I'm talking about the gradual change over the decade, where I noticed a huge shift from 2010 to say about 2016. By 2016, about 20% of the people I knew were working online, or at least half the time working online. It was becoming more normal. E-commerce had become a thing. Self-publishing had become a thing. It was starting to pick up speed. All that this pandemic did is that it pushed it. It gave it that push. Whenever what happens in life is that whenever there's something new, it needs like a dramatic world event to like push it to the forefront to make it normal. So for me, that happened with two things. One was working online, and the other was with homeschooling my kids. That was like a weird thing until last year. Everyone be like, "You homeschool your kids, you homeschool your kids," and now every day people like, "Please help us, teach us how to homeschool our kids." It like the whole thing just shifted. But I kind of think I feel like I jinx things because when I was homeschooling my kids, I would always tell them, "Thank Allah that we live in the only time in history where there are no pandemics." I used to tell them this every year.
Yes,
Subhan- Sheikh Ismail, listening to what you're sharing, and there's a few questions that came to mind. Though the one being, I want to just touch on your children, if you allow me for a second, and looking at education. One of the things that people find challenging right now in the pandemic is the social inclusion of children, the social engagement of children, and how difficult they are finding it to keep their children socially engaged and active. As a parent that's been doing this for forever and a day, what is your secrets and what advice would you be sitting here this evening giving to parents?
Well, to be honest, the pandemic has affected us in that way as well, right? Because before the pandemic, my kids would be enrolled in martial arts classes. They were enrolled in swimming classes. We organize like kids workshops in the community for children from different backgrounds to get together and hang out. They would go for day camps organized by the online schools. We would go hiking. We would meet up with relatives. And all the children would get together. All that's gone, right? All that's gone now.
Right.
We can't do any of that. So I myself am struggling in this area. My kids are at home all day. We're scared for them to be around other people. Their social life is gone. I'm just lucky I have four kids, so they socialize with each other. So that keeps some level of interaction going. The
Yes.
other kids I notice who are like alone at home, I've noticed a huge change in their personality from the beginning of last year till now. That they talk less, they interact less, they just by themselves. I'm worried about that generation. There really isn't a solution. We are living through a test from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and the test is going to impact us in different ways. We're just going to have to evolve. So maybe online socialization is a solution. I haven't tried it yet myself, but it is possible. I mean, maybe just have these Zoom sessions like this for kids, for them to just hang out on Zoom chats. I don't know.
SubhanAllah. So may Allah subhanahu make it easier for our children, and protect them, and especially during this pandemic, because the
I
consequence of the pandemic has been devastating, not only from a health and losing of life, but also the social engagement. Sheikh, we'll be looking at the whole notion of working online. What does it allow you to do? I mean, when I remember when people spoke about the World Wide Web, maybe more than just over a decade ago, they spoke about this global village. How do you engage as somebody being online all the time, engage with the global village as such?
Yeah, so that's what social media is for, right? It's how we engage with the global village. A lot of people used to tease me before that I'm the social media sheikh. I'm always on Facebook, I'm always on Twitter. But here's the thing: if you're working from home, that's your social life. You don't have anyone at the office to have a conversation over a coffee with and things like that. So social media becomes your outlet. It becomes your way of sharing your ideas, sharing your thoughts, interacting with people. And I mean, there's been good and bad to it. I'm one of those people who, like, every week I think about shutting down all my social media and just getting off social media altogether because it's a really toxic environment. But then the other side of me is like I'm benefiting thousands of people through social media. And to be honest, I'm making money through social media as well, so I can't really turn it down. Uh, but I mean, that's really where your social life is online. Now, what I did to balance it out before the pandemic is that I would once a week hang out with people in my community. So hang out at a coffee shop or at a restaurant. Uh, what I'd like to do is go to the masjid. I used to just hang out with people outside the masjid. Unfortunately, all that's gone. So another thing I used to enjoy doing is whenever there was a guest speaker in town from another country, I would make sure I host him in Durban and hang out with him in Durban. So get to spend time in person with everybody like that. But those are people I met through social media, alhamdulillah. So that's how I was able to connect with them. So for example, about 3 years ago, Sheikh Yasser Qadi was in Durban, and I hosted him for the full 2 days. Took him scuba diving, took him to try ostrich steaks. We just hang out over 2 full days. But we met through social media. Like I emailed him, asked him when he's coming to Durban. Can I hang out with him when he's in Durban? And he said sure. So uh, social media really helped open up my international network of friendships. Alhamdulillah.
MashaAllah, you brought a nice word into the mix, Sheikh. The word network. MashaAllah, MashaAllah. So tell us, you're speaking about social networks and you're speaking about, and I listen how you speak about the masjid, because I can resonate with the fact when you go to masjid, you meet people, you engage with them, how the day has been. Maybe sometimes you've seen a brother from one waqt to the next waqt and so forth. And so it continues. But that's not taken away, as you mentioned. Now you're on this digital domain. How do you go about networking? And also you've mentioned off air that this is one of your superpowers. MashaAllah. So give us some secrets and some tips around networking, inshallah.
Yeah, so one of the things I learned very early in the self-help field is if you don't ask, you won't know. If you ask, the worst somebody's going to tell you is no, right? And once you get used to people saying no, you get used to asking things. So I've been that kind of person for a long time. Like in 2007, I was like 21 years old. I was traveling to India to attend the Dr. Zakir Naik's peace conference, and I sent Dr. Bilal Phillips an email saying, I'm coming to the conference, can I meet up with you? And he said sure. And I made my way through the bodyguards, ducking through the rows, came up to him, shook his hand, introduced myself to him, ended up landing a job with him, working for him for over a decade, alhamdulillah. Same thing happened with Sheikh Umar Suleiman. I was in Malaysia, I was speaking at a conference, he was speaking at a different conference. I saw him, I walked up to him, introduced myself, and alhamdulillah, I've been working with him since as well. For me, it's always just been about just ask. Like somebody asked me, my book on Umar bin Abdul Aziz, how did I get Yasser Qadi to write the foreword? Very simple. I just emailed him and asked him. That's all that's what I do. Like I just ask people. Like I will ask 10 people something. If one of them say yes, alhamdulillah. Well, most of us are just afraid to ask. We like, okay, this is like, what we do. This is, let me tell you one secret of networking, right? A lot of us, we look at people like Dr. Bilal Phillips or Mufti Menk or Sheikh Umar Suleiman, and we're like, oh, he's this famous guy, I can't talk to him. I treat them with the respect people deserve, but I treat them as normal people. I don't like, it's like sometimes when people think you're famous, they walk up to you like, or they look at you like, they give you that scary smile with those big eyes, and they just stare at you that whole time. It creeps you out, right? But if you talk to someone like, like a normal person, and treat them as an equal with respect, they're more likely to open up to you and develop a friendship with you. And that's really what the secret of networking is. If you're on a network with somebody who you think is famous, they don't want you to treat them like some kind of special person. Just normal interactions as you would with somebody else. Obviously, they don't want you to talk down to them. Nobody wants anybody to talk down to them. But the normal, treat people like human beings. Like if a sheikh's in town, I'll ask him, what type of food do you like to eat? He'll say, okay, I like Turkish food. Okay, I'll take him to a Turkish restaurant and hang out with them there. Again, it's just about treating people as people, and don't be afraid to ask, because everyone's afraid to ask. So sometimes they themselves get surprised when somebody actually asks them for something, because everyone's so scared to ask. Obviously, an ask also has to be reasonable, right? So if somebody had to ask me for 100 free copies of my book, sorry, I can't afford 100 free copies of my book. So that's also the other side of networking. Be very reasonable in what you ask of people. If you know something's the person's source of income, don't ask it for free. A lot of people misuse networking for that. Especially with family. If you've seen it, if family got a business, you want everything for free. Don't do that, especially in times like this. You'd rather help people out with their sources of income.
Teacher, I'd like to ask you on the topic of asking. So I would like to ask something, because my eye fell on something while looking at Sheikh Ismail's room. I think it's on my right side, his left side. There's a box with 3 boxes stacked on top there. I don't know if you're acquainted with. Are you acquainted with those boxes, teacher? Next to the globe.
No, I can't see it clearly.
Yeah, you can't see it? Okay, so it's
No.
the five pillars game. You've seen it already
Yes, yes, yes,
around?
yes, yes, yes.
Yeah, yeah. So you don't know Sheikh Ismail? He's had a hand in developing the five pillars game.
MashaAllah.
Also, alhamdulillah, I think it's something definitely in our current situation that we have the Xbox and we have the PlayStation, but I think it's something good that we can purchase for the family in our current situation, inshallah. But the real question I'd really like to ask Sheikh Ismail, and since we are three men here on this platform, and it's the issue of mental health and men, because it's like the father's the head of the house, the husband is the head of the house. Um, it's like we always have to have our A game. We always need to be on top of things. How important is mental health for males, and especially now during the lockdown? Share with us some tips on how to actually remain sane during our current situation that we are faced with. Barakallahu feekum.
Yeah, so one of the problems with the past few generations before us is this idea that men shouldn't be in touch with their emotions, right? You got to have this you got to have it together all the time. I find it much more healthy to know your emotions and to be in tune with your emotions and to work accordingly, right? So, for example, I'm actually taking a few days off this next few days, and the reason is I'm feeling burnt out. And I just told my boss, I'm feeling burnt out. I'm taking a few days off to reboot, and they're like, fine, that's good. It's good that you noticed that. You rather reboot, you can give us your best. Uh, I'm like that with my family as well. Like sometimes I just tell my wife, you know what, I need some alone time. My brain just isn't here. I need some alone time, and she understands. And I'll just go and play with the Xbox for an hour, something like that. Uh, I mean, before the pandemic, it would be like I'll head out to a coffee shop and just sit and have a slice of cheesecake and just sit there alone with my thoughts. Now we can't do that, so at least we've got our games at home. But it's very important that we understand our emotions. Each of us are different. Some of us are more extroverted. We need a lot more socialization. Some of us are more introverted. We need a lot more me time. I'm an introvert, but I'm like, I need me time, but I work alone as well. So I have to schedule social time as well because I need at least 1 or 2 hours a week of hanging out with other guys. Uh, and you have to be in touch with your emotions to recognize any of this or to know any of this. Days when you're feeling sad, days when you're feeling weak, days when you're feeling overwhelmed by expenses. These are all things that men are scared to deal with because we're supposed to be brave and strong all the time. I'm not saying don't put up a brave face in front of your family. It's I mean, if that's what your family needs, then do that. I mean, if they're going through a traumatic event and they need someone to be the brave one, do that. Be the brave one. But you also need to take care of yourself. So like if you need to spend an hour alone just to rethink and get pull your thoughts together and work through your emotions, do that. One of the ways you can do that is to have a dedicated space at home that's just for you. For me, it's my
Man cave.
office. Yeah, the man cave. Every
Sheikh,
man needs
Sheikh
a
has a
man
man
cave.
cave. Yeah.
Yeah, that's my other name for my office. I call it my man cave. In daytime it's my office. In the evening it's my man cave. So, sometimes you just need that space where there's no wife, there's no kids, there's no neighbors, there's no in-laws. It's just you and your thoughts and whatever it is that you use to de-stress.
Mm.
That's very very important. And I think for too many of us, we just don't do that. We are working all the time. We're not working with the family. Uh, and sometimes we have these bursts of anger and we don't know why, and I think every guy's gone through that. Like you come home from work and your wife's like you need to fix the tap, the paint is
Mm.
peeling off the roof, and you like just shout at her. uh, if you're more in control of your emotions and you know what's going on in your mind, you can handle it better. Like if you walk in the
Mm.
house and your wife starts telling you this needs fixing, that needs fixing, you tell her, I just had a very tiring day. My mind's not here right now. Give me an hour to relax. I'll get to it after that. Right? We can discuss it after that. Uh, that's when you know what's going on in your mind. If you don't know what's going on in your mind, you're just snapping at people and you don't know why you're snapping at people because you don't take time to process your own thoughts. This is why I think it's also important for everybody to study a little bit of psychology. Not to become a psychologist, but just to read basic books on how emotion works and what are the signs of stress, what are the signs of depression, what are the signs of anxiety, so you can recognize it in yourself, you can recognize it in your kids, you can recognize it in your spouse, and it helps you be a better husband and father and helps you be a better man.
Inshallah.
No, definitely. I think teacher Sheikh speaks about that fit of rage. I think that's why we have so much road rage here in and now in Cape Town. You know, a small misdemeanor and the guy just blows it. But you know, I do tell people that's driving with me that I got my first driver's license in Egypt and my second driver's license in Saudi, and I failed miserably here, so I just had it converted. So maybe I have of those bad bad habits from the Middle East, bad driving habits still. But I mean, the road rage is just crazy, and it could be because the guy had a stressful day. He's thinking of fixing a tap which he has no idea on how to do it, and no matter how many YouTube videos you watch on plumbing, you know, it's just not the same. So Sheikh, you stuck at home. You chose to be at home, or circumstances made you work from home for more than a decade. But your average Sulaiman and Muhammad, he's only doing this for a few months and is not productive. He has his laptop open, he has his cup of coffee there, but he starts working in his PJs, he's got his pajamas on, his kids is playing around, and he's not productive at all. How do we fix that lack of productivity while working from home?
Okay, that's a good question, and that really is the reason why I got into personal development. Right, was I needed to fix that in myself. So I started reading self-help books, and that led to me starting Islamic self-help and writing my own self-help books. But really, what you need is a period of adjustment. And there's a saying that I like to turn around. People always say, "I want to be my own boss." Right? You ever heard that saying, "I want to be my own boss"? So I tell you, people that, okay, do you know what it means to be your own boss? You have to shout yourself when you're not doing your work. You have to give yourself deadlines. You have to make
Uh-huh.
sure you stick into your hours. You need to make sure you dress appropriately for work. You have to be your boss, right? How a
Mhm.
boss is going to interact with you, you have to interact with yourself in that way. So you need self discipline. And this, I think, is something a lot of people find hard to learn, how to be self disciplined. Uh, for some people, it comes naturally. Other people need to study it. The best way is study self help books on these topics. So here's a few simple things everyone can do to be more productive at home. Number one is have a dedicated workspace. Right? Too many of us are sitting on our bed with our laptop trying to work. You can't work in your bed with your laptop. You just can't. Your brain is it's not going to be at work, right? Have a dedicated workspace, even if it's just a corner of the house, even if it's your balcony, whatever it is, a coffee shop, whatever it is. Right now we can't do the coffee shop part, but wherever it is, just find a dedicated workspace that when I'm sitting at that space, I'm at work. It has a very strong psychological impact on you. Number two is you need to have, uh, you mentioned the pajamas, right? You need to be dressed
Yes.
appropriately for work. And this is why, if you're working from home, as soon as you wake up in the morning, the first thing you do is you put on the same clothes you would wear if you're going to work, right? So that remember, the way you dress affects your psychology. If you dress
Mhm.
in your pajamas, you are lazy, you are sleepy, you want to relax, play video games, watch Netflix. You don't want to work. Nobody works in that
Mhm.
clothing. It just doesn't have that impact on you. A third thing you can do is have a morning ritual, a way of preparing yourself in the morning for work. So maybe that's making your cup of coffee, maybe it's listening to Nasheed for a few minutes, maybe it's just scrolling through your social media. Whatever it is, everyone's different, but you have that thing that you
Mhm.
like, while you're doing it, you like chilling a bit, but your brain's like, okay, I'm getting ready for work. In 15 minutes, I'm going to start work. Finally, most importantly, and this is something I mention in all my personal development books, is you need a daily to-do list. And you need to make your to-do list the day before, right?
Mhm.
So every day at 5 p.m. I make my to-do list. So when I wake up in the morning, I know exactly what needs to get done for the day. Now, a mistake a lot of people make is that when they wake up in the morning, they decide to write their to-do list for the day. You're tired, you're groggy, you haven't had your coffee yet, you can't remember what work you need to do for today. It's going to take you half an hour to 45 minutes to remember everything and write that to do list. If you make it the night before, it'll take you 5 minutes and you'll wake up with everything fresh in your mind. Not only that, but while you are sleeping, your subconscious is working on that to-do list. Your subconscious is saying, okay, I've got these 10 tasks to do to tomorrow. From 9 a.m. to 10 a.m. I'm going to work on this. From 11 a.m. to 12 p.m. I'm working on that. Your mind is sorting things out for you. It's organizing your ideas. It's putting things in order. you wake up with a plan, and you wake up ready to tackle your day. You know exactly what needs to get done, when you're going to do it, and you're ready to handle the day. All of this is very, very important. Another thing you can do to increase your productivity at home is to take frequent breaks. I know this sounds counterproductive, but it's very productive. So what I do is, every 1 hour to 2 hours, I take a break. It's either a 5 minute break to relax, maybe watch a funny YouTube video or something, or it's a exercise break, right? Because we're not exercising, you're gonna get fat during the lockdown, right? So take the 1 hour exercise break every day is very important. Maybe 30 minutes in the morning and 30 minutes in the afternoon. But if you're not doing that, you're gonna come out from this lockdown looking like a very different person. That actually happened to me a few years ago, by the way, right? I think it was
Yeah.
about 6 years ago I picked up weight, and it was just 2 years ago I lost that weight. So because when I first started working from home, I didn't realize the impact it was having on my body. I never really got fat, but I mean, compared to where I am now, I was much heavier, and it was reaching an unhealthy weight. And then I realized the importance of eating healthy and of doing daily exercise, because men are not meant to be sitting on a chair in front of a screen whole day. We're supposed to be out there with our swords and our spears, hunting down the animals and fighting the barbarians. And that's what we're trained for.
Teacher, you have a question?
Yeah, mashallah. Just a
I
few
see you've been taking notes. You've been taking notes.
I said I was going to take notes, and I told those watching this evening, please make sure your pen and paper ready, because I'm sure there was going to be pearls shared with us this evening. Just something on dress code is that it's been proven in the corporate sphere that if people dress like a service day, what they call a service day, casual wear, the people are more unproductive on that day than any other day. That's been proven. So we again, lockdown, when we went through hard lockdown last year, I made sure I dressed for work, because that's where I was going to technically, and that does have a huge impact.
And you enjoy dressing for work. You enjoy you enjoy the shiny shoes and the hot collar.
Mashallah. Sheikh, you speak about Sheikh Ismail, you speak about frequent breaks. Does that not extend the length of time that you spend at work technically?
Not really, because you work faster, right? What happens is, if you're working non-stop for 8 hours, your energy is being depleted, and you're actually doing less work. Because if you start work at 8 a.m., by 2 p.m. you have no energy. You're now working very slowly. You're dragging. You're just trying to pass the time. But what you'll find is, if you work in blocks, if you work like 8 a.m. to 9:30, right? Then you take a 5 minute break. Then you work from like maybe say 9:45 to 10:30. What you will find is you'll get a lot more work done during those blocks, because you are balancing out your energy throughout the day. You're not spending all of it in one go. You're giving your mind time to recharge. You're giving your body time to recharge. And also, for example, if you're taking an exercise break, I don't know about you, but when I take an exercise break, my mind is still working. My mind's already planning. If I'm writing a book in the afternoon, it's planning the chapters while I'm doing that exercise. So when I sit down to write, I'm going to write a lot faster than if I was just sitting in front of a computer all day, right? So that's very important. You give your mind a chance to recharge. You give your body a chance to recharge. So what I do, for example, if I'm working and I start to feel tired, it sounds counterproductive, but I get up and I do 30 minutes of exercise, right? Because your mind's getting tired and your body's getting lazy. Your body needs to do some work, your mind needs to rest. So you switch it up. Right? So that's very important.
We're not talking about smoke break today, no?
No, definitely.
No.
So I'll throw that one in there. Sheikh, you can go ahead, Sheikh.
Yeah, so make sure, again, I have to add a disclaimer then, keep the break halal, right? Yeah. I am firmly in the camp of smoking being haram, right? That's something I wouldn't watch.
Alhamdulillah.
No, I don't think there's any smokers in the room, yeah. And
In this room, no, alhamdulillah.
Maybe extending the room. So inshallah, we are hoping for that. Sheikh Yusuf, over to you.
So Sheikh, alhamdulillah, you speak about writing offline. You spoke about writing 2 to 3 books per year. Right? Some of us struggle to finish reading one book per year. So, all right. So, what was your motivation behind writing? Because you speak about you spoke about mental health for men and having an outlet, and sometimes journaling. Some people will use journaling, but you know, getting to write, getting that, how can I say, confidence to actually write a book. Where did that stem from? And you know, can anybody just write a book? We might have people with a different skill set. Not everybody is a scholar of Islam, and not everybody is perhaps a psychologist. What do you advise somebody with, with regards to writing, taking that plunge? Or how? I mean, I haven't written a book yet, so
Hmm.
how would you, motivate someone to start writing?
Well, I wouldn't necessarily motivate
Okay,
someone
not
to start
everybody is
writing.
a writer.
Yeah, I would motivate everyone to spend their life, at least dedicate a portion of their life to something that would be sawab e jariyah for them, right? Something that if you had to die tomorrow, that's going to continue earning you good deeds. So for me, that's what my books are. They're my source of sawab e jariyah if Allah accepts them from me. uh, it doesn't have to be that. For someone else, it could be a waqf that they start. It could be a school that they start. It could be, somebody whose education they sponsor. There are many different ways to set up sources of sawab jariyah. That should be the focus of one's life, because we don't know how long we have, so we need to use the time we have putting together sources of sawab jariyah. Now, why I chose to write, I honestly don't think I chose to write. I think Allah created me as an author. That's actually been something I've told people for a long, long, long time. That I believe I have the soul of an author, in the sense that when I write, I get a dopamine boost. I get happy. I get that I get a sense that I'm fulfilling the purpose for which I was created. I don't know if you guys saw the Pixar movie Soul. The new Pixar cartoon. There's a
No.
scene there where like when the guys are like in the zone, they like their soul elevates to another world. That's how I feel when I'm writing. Like somebody asked me, "What do you do in Jannah?" I said, "I'll probably sit and write a book about what happened for the past million years in Jannah, because I enjoy writing."
Allah Akbar.
And so, I mean, writing for me is something I love. It's something a lot of people don't love, and that's fine. Allah created different people for different purposes. I found something that I enjoy. That on one hand, it's a source of joy for me. It's a source of sawab jariyah for me. It benefits the ummah, and it makes me money. It's everything. It's all in one. Alhamdulillah, right?
Alhamdulillah. Yeah.
So I enjoy writing, and it comes naturally to me. That's one of the reasons why I transitioned from working in education to working in research, because now I'm writing full time. Alhamdulillah.
Mhm.
Since I moved over to the research institute, I've been writing full time and able to get more books out, and more research papers out, etc. So that's why I chose to write. Like, for example, when I was 15 or 16 years old, I told my friends, one day I'm going to write books. And they all laughed at me. They're like, "Yeah, you're never going to write a book, right?" I would love to meet those guys today and show them the dozen plus books I've written. My first book I wrote it when I was 21. That book you read, Having
Mhm.
Fun the Halal Way, I wrote it when I was 21
Yes.
years old.
Mhm. Mhm.
So I've been writing from a very young age. It's something that comes naturally to me, but it's also something I develop because even if something comes naturally to you, you're not going to be the best at it. Like someone who's naturally good at cricket still has to go for training. They still have to grow into a
Definitely.
superstar, right?
Mhm.
100%.
So one of the things I've done for myself is I've given myself a daily task of writing 1,000 words a day. That's my daily task, 1,000 words a day. Sometimes it'll be part of a book, sometimes it'll be a blog post, sometimes it would be a research paper, sometimes it's just journaling. On the days where I'm completely tired and angry and frustrated and I can't focus on my books and my articles, I'll just open my journal and write 1,000 words to myself, just
Mhm.
going through my thoughts and working through my thoughts. But I ensure that every single day I write a minimum of 1,000 words. Now, once I get into a topic and I fall in love with a topic and I enter a zone, it goes up to 3,000 to 5,000 words a day, right? Like I
Mhm.
just go into another world. Uh, it happened this year with the Quran 30 for 30 ebook for Yaqeen Institute. That Sheikh Umar Suleiman asked me if I could write that, and about 3 weeks later it was ready. He was like, "How did you write that in 3 weeks?" I wrote about 3,000 to 5,000 words a day in those 3 weeks. I just
SubhanAllah.
disappeared into the book, Alhamdulillah. The same thing with my favorite book that I've written is on Umar bin Abdul Aziz. This book, one of my favorite memories is writing it. I just enjoyed the whole process of studying the life of Umar bin Abdul Aziz and extracting 15 lessons from his life and just thinking about it and putting those thoughts into paper and just writing that book. That was like one of my favorite things I've ever done. So for me, I enjoy writing, and that's why I write. Somebody else might not enjoy writing. Maybe they enjoy teaching. Then they should dedicate their life to teaching. They enjoy podcasts. They should dedicate their life to making podcasts. Whatever it is, Allah created different people to do different things. Not everyone can be an author. Not everyone can be a doctor. Not everyone can be a teacher. So, whatever Allah has gifted us with, we say Alhamdulillah, and we use it in a way that's pleasing to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala.
Alhamdulillah.
Alhamdulillah. Shukran very much for those pearls, Sheikh. Chicha, I think that, one episode, one segment was definitely not enough. So I don't know if I'm
continued.
jumping.
To be
if I'm
continued.
jumping. So
You should go
inshallah,
longer
Sheikh
if you guys
Ismail.
want to.
No, I think what we do, inshallah, we will schedule another time with Sheikh Ismail, inshallah, and we'll take the conversation a little bit further, because it's very pertinent things that has been mentioned tonight. And I think we can expand on some of the items that has been mentioned, but also just to grow that and just gain benefit to those following the podcast. And inshallah, well, for me, I mean, I've made some of notes here. Some things were reminders and some was new. So again, there was benefits in it. And inshallah, we invite we invite you to come back, Sheikh Ismail. But we actually say we'd like you to come back.
And that's after his fellow Durbanite. I'm sure he knows Uncle Idris Kamisa,
Yes,
inshallah.
yes.
Will also
Uncle
be,
Idris is one of my mentors. Yeah, he was my principal when I was in school.
mashallah.
So
Very lovable.
A few weeks ago, we had Sheikh Bilal Ismail on. Now we got Sheikh Ismail Kanda on. In a few weeks' time, not next week, the following week, we'll have Uncle Idris coming on to our slot again, inshallah.
And then Sheikh Ismail. And then, inshallah, Sheikh Ismail.
You see, you said something very important tonight. You need to ask. So we're asking you now, Sheikh Ismail, would you come onto our podcast? Not in 2 weeks' time, but in 3 weeks' time, inshallah, so we can continue this conversation.
Sure, I'd love to do that. Just send me a reminder a few days before, inshallah.
Inshallah. We asked, we got the answer. Alhamdulillah. See, I was listening, Sheikh Ismail. See, I was listening to you. When you were speaking, I was listening. Right?
It's good to hear somebody's actually listening. A lot of people, they listen to the podcast and they're like, wow, awesome podcast. I'm like, okay, what did you learn? They're like, can't remember anything.
Sheikh Ismail is speaking about Sadaqatul Jariyah, right? And he mentioned podcasting. The first time I heard about the concept podcast was from one other colleague, Sheikh Tariq Appleby. But the first time I actually went and looked for a podcast is when Sheikh Ismail mentioned Mad Mamluks. And I went, checked out, what's this whole, craze about. And alhamdulillah, from there, I've just been hooked to watching podcasts also. So that's also in your Mizan al-Hasanat, inshallah.
Even the Mad Mamluks themselves, they told me that one of the guys there, he told me the reason he started a podcast was he was listening to another podcast where they were interviewing me about self-confidence, and that gave him the self-confidence to start his own podcast.
So your scale of goodies is like moving, mashallah. Allah reward you abundantly.
One of the things that I live by is that we don't know when we're going to pass away, right? My father was murdered when he was 29 years old. I was only 8 years old at that time. And because of that, I've always had in my mind that we don't know how long we have on earth. So to use every moment to set up a source of Sadaqah Jariyah is so important. That's our legacy, whatever it is. So I'm shukr to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that my life has been spent in that way. Every lecture, every student, the thousands of students I taught at IOU, the books I have out there, the podcasts, all of them are reaching thousands of people, and ask Allah to accept this from us and put in our scale of good deeds and make it a source of Sawab Jariyah for all of us. Ameen.
Sheikh, I think you've already set the tone for what me and teacher wanted to use the last few minutes for, and that's really to speak about the great losses that we have experienced in our community. Many of us have lost family members. Many of us have lost neighbors. Many of us have lost dear ones, even if they weren't neighbors or family. We've all lost someone recently or not so recently to this pandemic. And, we pray that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala grants these families the strength. Me personally, I've lost family members this week, and it still, boggles my mind when, people are not taking this seriously. So we pray that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala grants us to be responsible members of society, and that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala rewards the families who are, in pain. And it's so difficult, maybe, teacher, last question, how do we console someone virtually? Because, and it's very difficult to share that with the elders in our community, because, really a janaza, when we're younger, we go pray and go home. In Cape Town, it's a whole process where people actually go, give the minute they hear somebody's dead, people's at your home, giving condolences, helping the family, helping with, organizing the janaza. And now the pandemic just wipes all that away, because, it's only 50 people. And though it's your cousin or your uncle, you might reserve that 50 for his immediate children and their grandchildren. And, we've heard of so many family members, or rather, we've heard of so many families losing 3-4 people because everybody attended the janaza. So, how do we get around that? How do we maintain that humanity and maintain, that support in this time of strife and difficulty?
Yeah, Allah
You
make it
know,
easy for all of us.
I mean, Sheikh, that's a very valid question, and a lot of the time, it's never about the social engagement of going to a janaza, but you get to meet people, you get to meet family, you get to meet friends, and you make salams to people. That has been taken away from us in terms of the pandemic. But what we must not forget is to reach out to one another. Social media, and we've spoken about social media now in this podcast, is to reach out to people, sending them a message of condolences, just being there, and somebody know that you're on the other side, and they can return and say Jazakallah khair, and whatever it is, making that dua on the phone if you can't go meet them physically. I think in essence that still needs to happen, but we mustn't lose the essence of that, because what happens is that we don't make contact with the person, we don't offer any condolences, we do nothing. We just sit there and say, oh shame, inna lillahi wa inna ilayhi rajiun, may Allah grant the deceased Jannah. But we don't pick up the phone to console and share some words of wisdom or some words of comfort to those that have lost near and dear ones. So it's important in this time. I mean, we've lost some scholars here in Cape Town and around South Africa as well. We've lost good people, subhanAllah. And may Allah subhanahu grant everybody that's passed away Jannatul Firdaus and elevate their status. And grant those who are ill shifa and kamila. But it's a time when we need to show lots of social cohesion in terms of how we do things, not necessarily physically engaging, but even when we're engaging on the phone, but reaching out to one another. That for me is one of the cornerstones of building the society and keeping the society and communities intact. Sure. That's my 5 cents.
Last week there were like 3 janazas within 2 days of people who I know, and I couldn't attend any of them, right? So I messaged the individuals and I asked them, gave my condolences, and I asked them, is there anything I can do for you? And they were all introverts like me, and they all said, I just need space, I just need to be alone, to process this. And I told them, okay, but if you need anything else, let me know, I'm here for you. I think just something like that alone, it helps the person know that they're not going through this alone. It's very difficult, especially for smaller families. Now, those of us who come from larger families, we don't realize how hard it is for smaller families. There are some families who are like immigrants, and it's just like 4 of them living together in the country. There's nobody else in the entire country from the family, and if 2 of them die from COVID and there's 2 of them left, they've got nobody to visit them. They've got, no one checking in on them. It's very important that the rest of the community reaches out. Even like right now, my best friend is on a ventilator for the past 3 weeks, and it's really taken its toll on us. This is the brother who organizes my Juma lectures. He prints my books. He organizes my weekly halakas. Does everything for me in Durban. And he messaged me one day to say he has COVID. Week later, I get the message he's in hospital. A week later, that he's on the ventilator. He's still in that state. We're making dua for him every day. May Allah grant him complete shifa. But it's a very, very difficult time that we are living through. It takes its toll on us mentally. we generally deal with a janaza, and then we spend 6 months recovering from it, and then we hear of another janaza. We spend Now it's 3 or 4 a week. We don't have time to recover. I lost a lot of my teachers in COVID. A lot of people who I studied hadith under or fiqh under are gone. They went with COVID, and I mean, it took their lives. Allah grant them Jannah.
Um,
Family in January, I had to attend my aunt's janaza. She also passed away from COVID, young, in her 50s. No one was expecting it. So it's a very, very difficult time. It's a test from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And every generation has their test. This is simultaneously an azab and a test, right? I've always felt for many years that this world is overdue for an azab. I'm not supposed to say things like that, but I mean, we know what the world has become like in the
you
past
study
20
history.
years.
You study history.
Yeah,
Sheikh.
yeah. I
Yeah.
studied history. I know the ups and downs. I know that every 100 years there's a bubonic plague or a black plague or a Mongols rushing through your lands or Crusaders rushing through your lands. Something was coming. Right? There's no way we can live in ghaflat and commit every sin under imaginable, and Allah's punishment won't come. But of course, it's not a punishment for everybody. The Prophet ﷺ himself said that the pandemics are a punishment for mankind, but a mercy for the believers. So we have to take it in that way, that for those who it does not change and they remain firm upon sin and they remain firm upon evil, and the plague takes them in that way, the pandemic takes them in that way, it is the beginning of their punishment. But for those who it was a means of martyrdom, it was a means of tawbah, a means of turning to righteousness, it's a mercy to them. It's the best thing that could happen to them. So this is a test from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to the believers, and it's a wake-up call to all of mankind. And every generation has to deal with something like this. We were lucky that we didn't have to deal with that much. Our fathers had to deal with apartheid. They had to deal with before that World War II, before that World War I. We didn't have to live through any of that. These the younger ones amongst us. I know about Chicha. Maybe he lived through something else. But
you're going where Sheikh is not allowed to go. You're going where Sheikh is not allowed to go.
again, I don't know your age, so I'm just assuming, maybe World War II veteran or something. I'll make things easy.
That's the end of this podcast. That's the end of this podcast.
Jazakallah Sheikh for those beautiful, wise words. Alhamdulillah, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make us of those who reflect. If this is not going to make us reflect, then I don't know what really will. We pray that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, grant us to be better coming out of it than we've entered it. And we've also, inshallah ta'ala, we are about to enter the 10 best days of the year. And who would have thought that Hajj would have gone from 2 million plus to, how many was it last year? 1,000 people to 60,000 this year. Unimaginable, but yet it happened. And I was speaking to Sheikh Anwar Adamson yesterday, Chicha, and he was telling me, being a student in Medina, he probably, did Umrah hundreds of times. And every time you think you're just going to come back, and it's, it's just like basically routine. And even when we go now, we think it's every second year, once a year. And now it's just stopped for everyone. Really something to think about. And for those of us who, all of us try to do the best in Ramadan. And if we mess that up a little bit, we have this 10 days, best 10 days of the year, which some scholars consider best in the last 10 nights of Ramadan. So we should really, inshallah ta'ala, make the effort to use it fruitfully. Inshallah, and a reminder, not an instruction, to watch the moon sighting, inshallah, or before the moon sighting, for clipping the nails and cutting the hair. Inshallah, it always happens with me. Fortunately, for years they haven't sighted the moon. Then I have that extra last day, but alhamdulillah, inshallah. So when we meet again, it will be in the last or the first 10 days of Dhul Hijjah. Inshallah, next week we have a Hajj special. Teacher, you hosting a Hajj special.
Inshallah, with Sheikh Yusuf as the co-anchor.
Inshallah, definitely, inshallah. Sheikh Ismail, any last closing remarks, inshallah, and we'll wrap up, inshallah.
Yeah, I think we can close off now. Just a reminder to everyone that, again, we're supposed to frequently remember death, and Allah has put us in a situation where it's in our face, it's all around us. So if that's not making us change our priorities, I don't know what will. May Allah soften our hearts and put it full of
Ameen.
iman. I would highly recommend, this is like my main thing I speak about when it comes to productivity, that every single person sets up for themselves sources of sawab jariyah. That's the most important thing. Because if you had to get COVID and pass away, and Allah protect all of us, if it had happened to me or you, what have we left behind that benefits the ummah? What have we left behind that continues to build up our good deeds? There are three things mentioned in the hadith, and these are three broad categories, not three small things: knowledge that benefits people, charity that continues to benefit people, and righteous children. These are not three things, these are three broad categories. Knowledge could be books, could be podcasts, could be anything, building a school, building a university, it can be anything. Charity, again, it can be anything: an orphanage, a hospital, a waqf, anything. Your children are not necessarily your biological children, a younger generation that makes dua for you. That's what it is, right? Orphans, the children of your neighborhood, children you taught in maktab, people you adopted, your own children, your own grandchildren, your nephews and nieces, a younger generation that makes dua for you after you pass away. These are the three areas, the broad areas we should focus on. And I always advise everybody, in each of these three areas, have something that you leave behind. Have some form of charity that continues to pile up after you have passed away, some form of knowledge that continues to benefit people after you have passed away, and some form of next generation that you have impacted that will make dua for you after you have passed away. If you do these three things, then inshallah, that will be enough to make up for our sins on the day of judgment.
Barakallahu feekum. Sheikh, teacher, any closing
Yes,
remarks, inshallah? We see you
Sheikh,
tomorrow with Jummah reflections, inshallah, at 12:05. But I think, teacher, I'll leave the vote of thanks up to you.
I'll leave it over to you, Sheikh. You haven't been here for 2 weeks. This is your penance
So I
that
need
you're
to
paying
catch
tonight.
up. I need to catch up. Okay. So from the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam's advice is that whoever does not thank mankind does not thank Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So we thank Shaykh Ismail for sharing the platform and also committing to sharing the platform in the future. Inshallah, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala put that in his scale of good deeds. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala protect all of us, teacher, Shaykh Ismail, Suhail, everybody involved in this platform, and everyone watching, and everyone in general. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala protect them. And if the end is destined in this pandemic, let it be a good end and an end which we have prepared for, as Shaykh Ismail advised, inshallah. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك نشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت نستغفرك ونتوب إليك. والسلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.